All right, so welcome everyone here. It's nice to see that you stayed till the end, and I hope you enjoyed the conference so far. I think the organizers did a really good job here. And let's see if that works. Not really. You might need to start presenting mode somehow, because I don't know. If you, yeah. But I'll speak a little bit about those two books because they are particularly important because two of you can leave today with the book and some special text from me, but you need to do something for it. I'll tell you at the end, so you stay, right? So that's me. If I'm not traveling, which is my biggest hobby, I write books and blogs and do podcasts and recommend people to organize conferences. We do Agile Prague every year, so I know what work it is. So let's try. No. Okay, well, there is the presentation mode in the... now, thank you. Very good. So let's see if it works. So that's the journey I start, right? I want to share my journey at first because it might be similar to yours. I don't know. I hope it was worse than yours. You got a better, easier journey, but mine was pretty tough. I show up in the US with a customer for 7 months, very individual culture. They were not talking to each other except, well, status, but then they didn't talk to each other either. They were reporting, no? Reporting to the manager at that status. And out of nowhere, 2 months after I've been there, they switched to Scrum, like this. So here is your meeting room. You're going to pair program here, work in 2 people groups, right? So you don't have your cubicle to be hiding entire day anymore. You need to talk and collaborate and have those retrospectives and help each other. Wow. New tool. Shall I buy a new t-shirt or what? American stuff. Some new process, it will go away. That was what I was thinking. And then, it works, awesome. Then I went back to Prague and my manager said, hey, and now you have to be a Scrum Master. I was like, I don't want to be a Scrum Master. He was like, yeah, but you have to. You're the only one who ever seen Scrum from our company, 2005, long time ago. I was like, yeah, I don't like Scrum. He was like, I don't like it either. But you just started, right? So we made a deal, 3 months, and then I'm out. And I started. My first statement to the team, my colleagues, my friends, kind of, right, small company, was like, hey, we're going to do this Scrum, right? Isn't that great? Forget it. We don't want to do that stuff. I was like, yeah, but we have to, right? The customer is sort of requesting us to do that. What shall I do? I said, okay. And then another voice. Can we fake it? I can't care less. Do whatever you want, just make sure the customer will not notice. So, new process, and we just really implemented, at the end, pretty much everything by the book. At least we tried. We didn't understand it that well, but as it was written as a new tool, new process, and we didn't fake it because the customer was sending a person who was like sitting in our office and keep asking about, do you have a retrospective? Can I join? Things like that. So we do Scrum. Very funny. And then about a year after, I realized to my biggest surprise, because we thought we are the best team ever. We are better than the customers because we can help them, right? We are better than everybody else in the world. And this stupid, silly process called Scrum actually helped us. And I realized that what we really need to change is our thinking, our culture, which was collaborative, but only a little. We could be much more than that. And I realized many things, like I need to learn coaching, I need to learn facilitation, I need to become a different leader. And eventually, after a couple of years, I was able to live that. So I was promoted as a director of engineering, the biggest group, and HR. We were talking about HR before, right? And if you have the HR and the biggest department, you can technically change the world. So I said, the only thing I know better is how to build self-managing teams. So let's do it, but at the company level. No positions, almost no managers, very flat organization based on the team collaboration. So that was my journey. A lot of mistakes, of course. I am not proud on some of those, but it worked. So what I have here, I have like 5 pillars of business agility. 5 things you may want to reflect on as they are here on the screen. And I always share some story from like how it should not look like, but it's very common in some environments. And then a few tips like how to deal with it. So the first thing, imagine telco company, the big corporation, German corporation. They love processes. They have a single discipline skills, very narrowed down, detailed positions. Focus on individual performance because that's important. And they have a group of individuals not really working. I end up having a team, so-called, which got 5% of that person, because that's the expert, right? We cannot give you more. 15% of this one, 25% of that one, 60% on that one. You see, you even have 60% of that person. You should be happy. And you can imagine how daily Scrum looks like. They show up there in a meeting room in front of the board saying like, you know, I didn't have a time to work on this Scrum yesterday, and I don't think I have a time to work on Scrum today either. So, yeah, I don't even know why I'm here. So that really sucks. And we start lobbying and doing all of the other things. But if you really want to build this, the teams are the core. It's not about individuals. Forget individuals. It's all about the teams. And we say in Agile teams should collaborate. Isn't that nice? But most of the people from those type of organizations, they never collaborated. They don't trust each other. And if you don't trust each other, there is no way you can ever rely on somebody and do something together. It's close to impossible. So first thing first, you need to build a trust. How? Series of little tiny exercises. You can, of course, go for a beer. That works really well. But you can go for lunches. But you can also do it on virtual environment. We usually play a game with our clients who collaborate with us, which was called Tell Us Something Which Is Not a Secret, but people usually don't know it about yourself. And you would be surprised what I learned about my colleagues. We were working 10 years together, sitting in the office, sometimes going as a family skiing. And I learned something brand new. I was like, wow, it's interesting. How come? The next day, with the Americans, we got there a lady. She sometimes like screw up something. We need to fix it overnight. And the guys were like really angry on her. I met her, so I know she's a nice person. She has a knowledge in some specific area which no one else does. So I kind of like her, even though we were fixing some of the things. And after this team building little activity, what happened was that the guy who was the most angry, instead of being angry again and complaining, he said, well, you know, there was a mistake again. I fix it over, my morning. And I hope she's better at cooking Chinese food than writing a code. And everybody laughed. And everybody was okay. And we were like seeing that person not as an email address anymore, but as a real person. And we developed over the time. Then they met her, and we developed some really good relationship. Everybody has some plus and minus sides. No one is ideal. The only thing which is different is, can we trust each other? How can we see each other? So once you have that trust, openness, because people need to really openly share experiences. And then diversity. One of the things which stuck in my mind was Linda Rising saying that sometimes the teams bring their dogs or other animals to work. And those teams who did, They were more open to hear different perspectives. I don't know. I don't have that research, but try not to hire to the team just the same similar-minded people because you will lack innovations and creativity. So those are the teams, right? Not individuals, but always a team. What we can do together. In a team, there is no individual ownership. There is always we own it together and we help each other to make it happen, whatever that is. And once you have trust, can start collaborate, the necessity would be transparency. I love radical transparency. I love those organizations where they share everything, the revenues, expenses. If you want to fly business to a business trip, expensive ticket, share it with everybody else. And if they feel it makes sense, well, no one would ever question it. But if they feel they don't, they will call you out. Very interesting thing, right? But a lot of managers are afraid of that. I was lucky, I started working under a manager who was very open, very transparent. He was like sharing everything. And he was very collaborative. He was really good at building those collaborative spaces. But then eventually something changes and I started working under a chairman of the board, a very formal person, but he hated transparency. He believed that his power is equal to the things he only knows and no one else. And that was very difficult to do anything Agile there because in Agile we erased that transparency and he was trying to hide things. But again, it's the trust. When we have a good trust between the two of us and good relationships, things went pretty well. He was willing to try and open up a little bit and share some information. But if he doesn't trust somebody, it was like hidden. Failure. I remember I was having a talk at a bank. There are a lot of people from the bank, so let's see, right? And I was talking about failure is a good thing, right? You need to celebrate a failure because it's an opportunity to learn. And you should see their faces. Now, you look okay with that, so good for you. But that was really funny because when we debriefed that after, we were all saying, I was talking about small little experiments, right? Sprints in Scrum, for example, are very short. And you rarely fail the entire sprint. You fail a little thing within a sprint. You say, when you said failure, we imagine the big projects failing completely and we are losing clients and, we are the bank. We cannot afford that. So in your environments, do you take a failure as a good thing and you celebrate it? Or do you take it as a bad thing? And you look for, I see some, and we look for punishment. It's your fault. You're fired now. Very different environment. So that's another thing we need to work on, right? Building teams. Learning from failures. Okay, interesting. Something happened. What can we do about it as a team? Inside out. So if you want to change that, it starts with the values. Then the question is always like, how are we going to measure that it's really happening? How do we know? And only then we should implement the processes. I was myself going the other direction. I was lucky because we implemented Scrum as we understand it, like a new process, have to have a retrospective, so let's sit down. But I was lucky because we created those values and enforced them through implementing it. But I've seen so many organizations where it creates just a dark Scrum, as I often call it. Something where everything is skilled and you don't want to be there even a single 1 minute. So, values first. The rest will come after. The second one, value, right? Value-driven. We talk about the value all the day today. So imagine automotive company. They were about to deliver tasks and maximize the velocity. We need to do it faster. More work to be done. Very important. Estimates are key for our agility or not, doesn't really matter. But when you ask them, do you deliver value? No, we have tasks in Jira. What do you mean value? Like we have so many other parties, vendors, delivering some pieces. So we don't even see the entire product. We never talk to the customer. We don't even think about the customer. And the customer for car manufacturer is not that difficult, right? Most of them and most of you have a car, I assume, nowadays, right? Most of you went to some dealership, so you can maybe imagine how is it to sell cars still. They never even think about it. They were doing their tasks. So if you want to break that pattern, task, focus, effort, focus, purpose. What's our purpose? And Jürgen was talking about it this morning, right? Delight customer. It might be a purpose. Maybe you have something else. When I started my business, my purpose was I want everybody in the Czech Republic, where I live, to know what the Agile is about. Because there was like almost zero knowledge. You say Agile and say, what? I say, okay, and explain, right? And later on, I need to change it because currently everybody knows, well, at least believes they know what is Agile, right? They are doing it after all. So now I'm on that journey of correcting the typical mistakes and helping them to be successful with that Agile. So purpose is very important. It's a star on horizon. You will never touch it, but it will give you a guidance. And once you have it, you start building innovation. So we said our purpose and the company where I work is to deliver added value solutions to our clients. We want to bring them innovations. But actually our people were delivery factory. They were looking for requirements. So what my colleague did, he was the business development director at the time, he said, I want more innovations. I say, yeah, cool with those guys, right? I thought. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to run workshops on a regular basis. And we invite everybody and start talking about crazy ideas. His first crazy idea was, how can we leverage the Facebook? And you need to understand, we were doing life-critical, mission-critical segments. I was writing systems for pacemakers and defibrillators, saving people's lives. And then he's coming, that crazy guy with a Facebook. I thought like he lost his mind. But I said, okay, sure, we do innovation workshop. No problem. And we did. First few rounds were like almost a disaster. People start coming, but we got activity. People start coming with ideas. Can we do this? Can we do that? Completely nonsense from a business perspective, not really working that well. And but after a few iterations, it changed. And after a year, we were able to sell something to our biggest medical client. It was some sort of AI. We didn't call it that way. We were not that fancy. Some network of things inside, advising the doctors how to treat the patient. And, you know, it was pretty innovative at that time. But without the purpose, it will not happen. Priorities. How many of you have in your company a product owner who can say no to a feature? You guys are lucky. You have great product owners. But, you know, those stakeholders, users, everybody around is saying, can I have this? I would like to have that. A mess. And then as a product owner, you need to have that purpose in your mind and say, yes, that's a very great idea, but I guess it's for later. Or I guess it's for a different product. I'm sorry about that. And say no. So prioritize, because we cannot do possibly all the ideas which ever came out of that creativity. When you wake up the creativity of the teams, they have millions of ideas. Continuum, you need to deliver those pieces, not necessarily to the market, not necessarily to the production, but for a feedback to your stakeholders. Hey, how about this? How about this? What do you think about that? Focus groups. Get the feedback continuously, because that's how we learn if it's going to work or not. Customer-centric. So recently I got a company I was coaching, and they told me we are not allowed to talk to customer. They were doing Scrum. Like, how that's even possible? Well, it's in our rules. Our CEO said that's not, whatever, I forgot. So that's an environment where you have detailed requirements written somewhere in some documents, usually a lot of documents. And then you have a fixed scope, of course, because you know what needs to be done. And we very often have a proxy product owner who is trying to translate that into some language developers would understand, like an assistant of a team. Really not much fun. But instead, what we learn is co-creation. So when we start this whole agile journey at the company, we said we need to co-create backlog or products together. So we run workshops where we have stakeholders, not users, because the doctors, they don't have time, right? They need to save people's lives. But we got stakeholders there who understand how difficult is it, their job. We were meeting those doctors, seeing the implant. We were meeting the patients who have that pacemaker in place. But we really try to co-create that product together. And for that, you really need to build a partnership. The backlogs or your to-do lists, however you want to call it, need to come up from the partnership between people where we have the same purpose, same understanding, can collaborate on all that. It ends up eventually that we, instead of calling them customers, we actually feel we are part of that company. So we got employees who were feeling, I actually not working here, actually this company is paying my salary, but I am working for that customer and I am part of them. Because we are partners on this, we are doing this product together. So that was an interesting dynamic, because then you have employees who doesn't feel like employees. And they don't have any relationship to the mother company, so we need to fix that eventually. And build that partnership from the HR perspective as well. Empathy. With all that, it's not just about doing. It's a lot about seeing, a lot about hearing, a lot about thinking, but primarily it's about feeling. Can you feel the energy? Can you feel what's going on? And that's what we need to develop. Incremental way of working. In traditional environments, we believed we know what needs to be done, so we can create a to-do list and deliver it. In agile space, we realize we don't know what needs to be done. And all we can do about it is to inspect and adapt. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Adaptive operations. So imagine small company, 40 people, not too bad. Actually, very hierarchical inside, which was quite interesting, and very process-oriented. They want to be like the big American corporations. They were small, but still want to be like the big ones. So they take the processes, yearly budgets, fixed plans, defined business cases. They say, we are agile, we have Scrum teams, we run experiments. One of their experiments took about a year to be developed. Then it was put on the market as an experiment without any criteria of success or failure. And then it was run as an experiment for customers for about 3 years, when they say, well, it's not an experiment anymore, it's a product. So, not really agile way of working. Now, hierarchy first. I steal this metaphor from Steve Denning. I really like it because he said, you know, traditional organizations are like tanker boats. They have a captain to tell you what to do. Very centralized. And it could be very quick if you know exactly where you're going. But if you need to change a course, it takes a long time. And then Agile is more like a flotilla of small boats. So I often show it to managers who don't know, like, how do we work in this? And again, that's the purpose. If those small boats have the same purpose, all you need to do is to give them autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And they will make it much better than the big centralized organization. So many organizations, they need to change the structure from like 14 levels of the hierarchy into like 3-ish levels of a hierarchy, plus minus. Much flatter network of teams. You see it today, those of you who's been in the Russia presentation, right? That's what they did. Shift the entire organizational design. But it's also about changing the way how you do strategy. It's not a fixed thing. It's collaborative. So you have a lot of people working on that strategy and putting pieces together. Then you evaluate whatever is going on, you act and change it a little bit, improve it, and then again evaluate, act, improve it. It's an iterative way how to drive an organization, but also collaborative. And my favorite, budgeting. So once I worked with a very senior finance director, and he insists that we cannot move to rolling budgets because the company is not ready yet. They need to first learn the traditional way how to do it before they shift somewhere. And there was like no way around it. But eventually, once that person left, we switched like this into rolling budgets. And we actually realized the rest of the organization was ready. We got OKRs in place, so we know how to measure the progress. We were in place and just roll it up front. So don't take your budgets as a must. It can change. You can do things differently. Challenge it, but be patient at the same time. There are people who don't want to experiment. They believe if it worked for 30 years, it's going to work here as well. Last one, catalyst leadership, right? So that's what I learned. Let me bring it back to my journey. So when I was first promoted, I was an expert team leader, right? I know better how to code. So I was a team leader, can advise the people around me, can organize them. I tell them how. Then I got a little more teams, so I was more like a achiever, trying to give them goals and create an environment where they can actually choose their path, but it was more like a goal setting. And then eventually, becoming a Scrum Master, I realized all I need to do is to become a catalyst, give them a space and trust they can make it. So if you are in a top-down, autocratic micromanagement environment, they expect you to be experts and achievers, but definitely not catalysts. It's going against each other. So the first thing which helped me on that journey of becoming a catalyst was authenticity. So I was trying to be authentic. I was trying to say, okay, I'm on that journey with you. I'm sorry I make a mistake. Apologize. And that really helped me. To be truthfulness, have a courage to admit a mistake, etc. Relationships. I learned from the ORSC, Organizational Relationship System Coaching, that the relationships really matters. It's all about relationships. If you build a good relationships between people, they sort out all of their problems. So that's what I start doing. I help them with conflicts, I help them with dysfunctions, I help them with frustrations. And guess what? They sorted all of their other problems. They were great teams. It also starts with you saying, do you believe people can change? They can learn. Because the fixed mindset is, I'm smart, I've been given certain skills, and I cannot learn. The growth mindset will say, I can learn. I never thought I can speak in front of people. I was afraid. I'm an introvert. We were chatting here about it here, so I'm actually happy with a small group. But I learned how to do it. You can give me the feedback after that, right? But people can learn. And if you believe that, I was trying to shift it. So, expert, achiever, catalyst, they live inside of each other, right? So you cannot stop being an expert and become achiever. You're still the expert, but you can also act as an achiever, and here you can also act as a catalyst. So that's the whole picture. When you have a little time, what you might want to do is to go around the colors and think about where are we with my organization and where we want to be. And think about what you can do about it. Well, 3 things: feedback, experiment, and resiliency. So know where you are, where you like to be. Experiment, there is no one way. Just inspect and adapt and learn. And my favorite, resiliency. Become ready to whatever future brings. That's the most important. We don't know what's going to happen. So be ready. Thank you very much. You can...
Thank you, Zuzi.
You can connect with me on the LinkedIn. And there is the beer party I learned. So if you stay over and have a drink with me and some nice conversation, you can receive a book. The first 2 people who care, and grab me with a drink, they can have a book. So thank you very much.